Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And as always, a huge thanks to our community partners, Prime 47 Downtown, Tesco, and Shepherd Community Center. Without the support of these loving organizations, we'd not be able to be with you every Thursday night at 9:30 right here on WHMB TV 40. As always, we have a great show for you tonight. Our guest tonight is a man who has spent his life investing into the youth of our area. He's a retired pastor and the president of the Urban Youth Ministry and the director of Advance. Greg Dixon is with us tonight. Greg, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Let's talk about being a pastor. You were a pastor for 45 years, is that right?
Well, I've been in the ministry 45 years, just started my 46th year.
Wow.
And I did pastoral ministry for all that time, but as far as the local church here in the city, it was 38 years. So I worked with my dad for 19 years, and then the next 20, I was the senior pastor of the church.
Wow. I think for so many years, for decades and generations, we didn't recognize what a difficult job being in ministry was, being a pastor is. What was that experience like for you? Both being a pastor and then just being in ministry in general.
I have to say that, yes, you think about quitting every Monday, as about every pastor does. And we are our greatest critics, and we're always scrutinizing everything, especially ourselves. But to be very honest, growing up as a preacher's kid was a wonderful experience. Growing up with my parents, Dr. Greg and Wanda Dixon, they were here in the city. He had a program here on Channel 40 for years. We had a great home life, had opportunities that most kids probably didn't enjoy and have. I tried to take advantage in a good way of those opportunities. And I truly believe to whom much is given, much is required. And I was given so much by my parents. And so there's a lot required of me.
It must have gone well because you felt called to follow your father's footsteps into ministry. Tell me about knowing that that's what God had for you and taking a step into ministry and into being a pastor as your vocation.
Well, when I was about 16 years of age, I had to come to the place where I believed what I believed, not because my father believed it.
Right.
And it had to become mine. And so that transformation took place. And then when I was about 17, 18, I felt called to preach. And so I surrendered to the ministry, went off to Bible college, graduated. And then in 1977, I came back to help my father with the youth ministry at our church. Many people think, well, it was just a pre-planned thing and he was going to have his kid come back and, et cetera, et cetera. And I heard that a few times through the years.
I'm sure.
But I can honestly say we never discussed it, and it never crossed my mind until November of 1976, the year I graduated in 77, the next semester. And he called and said, hey, our youth pastor is resigning. When you graduate, why don't you come back? And that's the first time we had ever talked about it.
And was it an instant yes, or did you have to chew on that and pray about it?
No. I had to make him, what's the word? Squirm a little.
Right.
A little bit. He's made me squirm all my life. So I said, I'll get back with you in a couple of weeks. And so I did, and told him that I would do that. And I've been there ever since. So grew up there, called to preach there, educated there, found my wife there, raised my kids there. They all got saved there. I got called to preach there. I was saved, baptized. It's been my whole life.
Wow.
And so it's been a wonderful experience.
And a big chunk of that experience has been focused on youth. Tell me about your heart for kids and the incredible ministry success you had with kids.
Well, when I was probably 15, we had a youth pastor, and he took us out on the street, and we just did cold evangelism, just walking up to people and at malls or wherever, and so he really created a boldness in us for Christ and for witnessing. I worked in our bus ministry. There was a time before I even drove, I'd get up at 5 every Sunday morning, and we had 50, 60 buses went out through the city. I'd get them oiled and gassed and warmed up in the wintertime for the drivers to come. And I was about 15 years of age, and then I started working bus routes. And then my senior year of high school, I worked with 10-year-old inner city boys, and was a Sunday school teacher my last year of high school. And then went off to college, came back, was youth pastor. I was assistant chaplain at the Marion County Jail from 80 to 81. And that was a tremendous experience. We had 399 professions for Christ that
Wow.
1 year there at the Marion County Jail. Met a lot of wonderful people, and just very thankful for that experience. It was a tough experience, but
Yeah.
I heard so many words I didn't know. I'm still trying to figure out what they meant, especially from the inmates. It was a rough area, rough thing. But we had to hold services and pass out Bibles and do various things, and that was a great experience. And then just have worked with youth off and on. Ever since then, I was principal for 6 years of a Christian school. For 17 years, I was administrator of a Christian school. And so I've always been involved with youth. And I've pastored 3 churches over this last 45, 46 years. And so it's been good. And then I started Urban Youth Ministry of Greater Indianapolis in 2009, and have been working with inner city youth for the last 13 years.
Wow. It's a big resume. Do you feel like God gave you a heart for youth in particular, or a heart for all people?
I like youth. The older I get, I like hanging around young people because it makes me younger. I don't like old people. So I try to stay away from them as much as possible. But, when you go into the inner city, you are going into Satan's territory, and he doesn't like it. And so, I was sued 10 times last year. No good deed goes unpunished.
Wow.
So, you can. I have a lot of preacher friends. They're in the suburbs, and they retire or whatever. They say, I'm going into the inner city, and I'm going to reach the inner city, and they last about 6 months because it's messy.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's tough. Many of them, they know the system. They know how it works. We're just boys from the suburb, trying to make a difference, and
Right.
we're dumber than a box of rocks sometimes. So we learn the hard way of what's on the streets there and how to manage ourselves. But it's messy.
Yeah.
But Jesus left heaven, came to this messy world to try to make it a little better, and we have to go into our world and just try to make it a little better.
Amen. Greg, sit tight. He's agreed to speak a little more with us. We're going to talk about Advance and the Urban Youth Ministry when we come back right after this. Welcome back to Restoring Hope. I'm Curtis Smith. We're continuing our conversation with Greg Dixon tonight. Greg, you're the director of Advance. Tell us about Advance. What is it?
Well, after 38 years of pastoral ministry, I stepped down 7 years ago from my church at the end of 2015 to become the director of Advance. Advance is a global alliance for biblical evangelism, and its mission is to promote an alliance of pastors, churches, business leaders for inner city renewal and world evangelism through 6 Christian initiatives. And you can go to my website, advanceglobal.net.
Okay.
advanceglobal.net, and you can discover what those 6 initiatives are.
Okay. How has that been going? That seems like a big task to take on.
Well, it's been going far better than I think I ever expected. When I decided to step down from my church at the end of 2015, I went home and told my wife, I said, well, here's the deal. I'm resigning after 38 years. And she and I said, this is what I want to do, and I was explaining what Advance is going to look like, and she really gave me the idea for Advance. And so she says, you need one word that describes it. I said, well, what would that be? She says, how about Advance? I said, I like that, and so we've gone with it. But over the last 7 years, it's been amazing. I told the Lord that if He would bless And I wish I could say I was really spiritual when I made this promise to God, but I was more fearful than spiritual. And the promise I made was every donation, every love offering for preaching, I'll give 100% of it to missions, to advance, to support the 6 initiatives and whatever they need financially. So I'm not doing what I'm doing to make a living. I'm doing what I'm doing to try to make a life and to bless not only our inner city here in Indianapolis, but the nations of the world with the gospel of Christ. So nobody gets paid. I have 2 assistants. They don't get paid. Nobody gets paid. It's all volunteer, and so it's just pure evangelism.
Wow.
And the Lord has blessed that. We have 6 different initiatives that I oversee. So I have mission trips I take every July to Oaxaca, Mexico. I've been there about 25 times now in the last 12 years.
Goodness.
We do projects. So I help an orphanage in Buchanan, Liberia. We bought them mattresses, and we're scholarshiping 10 orphans there in Liberia to college and private high school this year. We've done a number of other things for them. We bought them a motorcycle. We bought 11 motorcycles for church planners in Liberia last year. We bought 10 tablets for sermon preparation for church planners in Mexico. Last year also, we hope to do another 20 motorcycles this year and 20 tablets this year. And so we do projects, and that's the second initiative. We're building a school in a place called Corny School Village. There are 503 students out of 4 villages. You ride an hour and a half into the bush. There in Liberia, you walk across a man-made bamboo bridge to get to the village. We started a church there 4 years ago, and we're building a school, and we'll be there in September to dedicate that. And this is the second year. 503 students are in this school, and they've never been to school.
My goodness.
Ever. So we're just trying to meet the spiritual needs through the church and the educational needs. And I think there's a clinic I think someone is going to try to build for them, and that way the physical needs will be met. So we just do projects. And then I have a transitional living ministry here in the city of Indianapolis. I did house 20. I'm housing 12 right now. Men. They're coming out of prison. They're coming out of the mission, various broken relationships. And I give them a new start in life. So we do that. I have 3 feeding centers where the churches in the city that we've helped start, they feed, men, women, neighborhood, community. So we have 3 feeding centers. We feed several hundred people a month. And then with that, we do urban youth ministry of Greater Indianapolis. I think we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
But we do that, and we go into the inner city, and we teach positive values to live by. And then church planning for me, really the biggie. So we have started in Africa, Asia, Latin America over the last 7 years, 520 churches. And what we do is we finance and pay the salary for each pastor for 1 year to help them start a church in some remote place of the world. And so we've done that 520 times.
Wow.
200 times this year. And my goal in the next 10 years, from 23 to 33, is a decade of believing the impossible. And we want to start 500 churches every year for the next 10 years for 5,000 churches. So we need some money to do that. But God has met our need financially every single year. We went from 27 churches to 27 to 54 to 100 to another 100 to 200 this year. And every year He's given us what we've needed to the penny of what we've needed to take care of everybody.
Amazing.
So, and the cool thing about it is that we support these pastors $50 a month for 1 year, and that's a raise for most of them.
Wow.
Most of them live on $30 or $40 a month.
Amazing.
So $50 a month is a raise for most of them. So church planning is probably the closest thing to my heart.
Yeah.
But I love urban youth ministry, and so that's what we do.
We're gonna have to have you back on to talk about urban youth ministry because we're out of time, Greg. But what an amazing ministry! That is just incredible to hear how God has worked while you take no money nobody on staff gets paid. That's just tremendous. Greg, thank you for all that you're doing for the kingdom. Thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. In this week's Counseling Corner segment, Chantelle Ross shares why she is so passionate about being a Crosswinds counselor.
Hi, my name is Chantelle Ross. I came to Crosswinds Counseling profession. I got into this field because I was actually seeking counseling myself, and the person that I talked to just really took their time working with me. I liked the atmosphere of doing that one-on-one. Felt like it was a safe place to really open up and dive into personal things without feeling judged or anything. I really like working with children of all ages up until adults of the older population. I really like working with those that struggle with addiction, those that are in the criminal justice system, like working with those that are really dealing with extensive trauma. I like working with children. We tend to do a lot of play therapy. We do reading and things like that, to really working with children to get down on their level of things where parents can't figure out what's wrong with the children, working with them and seeing things from their perspective and getting them to open up and just talk about things that really bother them and having that connection with them one-on-one and just watching them grow from the beginning to the end of their trauma experience and just watching them grow, working with teenagers and just trying to figure out their identity on some aspects and figuring out how to change their life from when they're struggling to watching them grow and figuring out life, and then watching the adults grow and just meeting their needs and seeing how they can change their life, looking at life from a different perspective and just watching them grow from the beginning until the end, and then just moving forward and looking at life from a different perspective from when they came in from the beginning until the end. If you would like to schedule an appointment with me, please visit crosswindscounseling.org.
Thanks, Chantelle. It's always so meaningful to hear why the work someone does means so much to them. Well, you just met one of our tremendous counselors. Maybe you need to schedule a visit with one of them, but maybe you are one of them. Maybe you're a counselor or a therapist looking for the right place to work. Crosswinds Counseling is hiring. We need great women and men to join the organization and help us to provide to the public who needs it so much. If you're interested in pursuing a career, go to crosswindscounseling.org/careers. We have opportunities in Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, and soon Dayton, Ohio. Again, check out all the opportunities at crosswindscounseling.org/careers. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Each week here on Restoring Hope, we bring you our Beacon of Hope segment to make sure we stay focused on that most important word in our show's title, hope. Tonight, Crosswinds chaplain Will Gross goes back into the Old Testament to bring us hope from Ezekiel.
Hi, I'm Will Gross, chaplain for Crosswinds. Today's message of hope comes from the book of Ezekiel. I've spent some time reading the words of this prophet over the last couple of weeks, and some things seem really strange to me. Ezekiel lived centuries ago, and he warned the people of Judah and Jerusalem of God's coming judgment because the people had not followed God. They had not worshiped the one true God. God asked Ezekiel to do some wild things, built a little model on the ground and laid down next to it for over a year, eating measured out portions of food on a fire made of buffalo chips. That's pretty insane. That sounds like the behavior of a crazy person. But God was telling him to do it. Why was God saying that? God told him that because judgment was coming. Ezekiel's message was largely one of condemnation, one of calling out the people for not worshiping God. Ezekiel was told to speak out against Jerusalem. He's told to speak against the mountains, against other nations, other cities, and the false prophets of Israel. In doing so, he told them that they were wrong, and he told them that they were wrong for not following God or his message. But what's the point? Why did that have to happen? God assured Ezekiel that he would be consoled in the fact that you will know that I have done nothing in it without cause. God has a reason for all these things, a reason for the judgment, a reason for the war and the siege of Jerusalem, eventually its overthrowing. But what was the point? God told Ezekiel multiple times, specifically about the condemnation of the false prophets. He says, and you will know that I am the Lord. May we follow the words of God without the need for judgment. We can know that now. We can know him personally now. And that is the message of hope.
Thanks, Will. I don't spend as much time in the Old Testament as I should, and I greatly appreciate you taking us there tonight. Well, as we wind down tonight, thanks to all of you for joining us, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks again to our sponsors, too, Shepherd Community Center, Prime 47 Downtown, and Tesco. And, of course, thanks to our friends here at WHMB TV 40. We'll see you right here next Thursday night at 9:30. Be blessed.